Hey guys, welcome back. Now we know the core concepts involved in Hadoop. We wrote MapReduce programs and we understand the architecture of Hadoop. Now we are almost ready to install and run a Hadoop cluster. Okay, to install and run a Hadoop cluster, we first need Hadoop software, correct? Where can we get the Hadoop software and libraries from? We know Hadoop is an open source project licensed under Apache Software Foundation. So we can go to Apache's website, download Hadoop and start installing, right? We can totally do that and there is nothing wrong with that. When we look at enterprise production setups, most companies go for distributions from companies that packages Hadoop and sell them. I'm referring to companies like Cloudera, Hortonworks, MapR, etc. Why would companies pay for an open source project? Because when you choose to run a software in your production environment, you have to think about scenarios when something goes wrong and you can call someone for help. Don't get me wrong, Hadoop user community is huge, active, and very strong. And you'll get plenty of help online. But sometimes when you run software at the enterprise level, you would need professional support and someone to take ownership and accountability for the issues and bugs with the software that you run. That is where companies like Cloudera, Hortonworks, and MapR come in. These companies package Hadoop distributions, sometimes with changes and enhancements to the existing Hadoop software, and offer enterprise-level support for a sizable fee. Most of the Hadoop distribution comes with all the important tools like Hive, Pig, Flume, Scoop, etc. bundled together. In addition to that, depending on the license, you can also get proprietary tools like Cloudera Manager, Impala, etc. When it comes to Hadoop vendors, there are three big names: Cloudera, Hortonworks, and MapR. Cloudera is the oldest player in the market and has the largest customer base. Cloudera was founded in 2008 and it was the first company to commercialize Hadoop. Cloudera has some key people in important positions. For example, Doug Cutting, who is the co-founder of Hadoop, is their chief architect. And a lot of people who initially part of the Hadoop project are now in key positions in Cloudera, which is a very big asset. Also, Cloudera offers some notable proprietary products like Cloudera Manager to manage Hadoop cluster and Impala, which is an enterprise-grade analytical database which runs on top of Hadoop. Next notable Hadoop vendor is Hortonworks. Hortonworks' product is called Hortonworks Data Platform, HDP in short, and it includes Hadoop and other projects like Pig, Hive, etc. Hortonworks' biggest strength is running Hadoop on a Windows cluster. In October 2001, Hortonworks announced the partnership with Microsoft to collaborate Hadoop distribution on Microsoft Azure Cloud on Windows servers, which is a quite significant deal. MapR is another big player in the world of big data and Hadoop. MapR's version of Hadoop has some significant changes to the HDFS architecture. In order to make the environment highly available at all times, name nodes metadata is distributed and replicated across the nodes in the cluster as opposed to running name node on a centralized node in the traditional architecture. MapR is selected by Google as a technology partner, and MapR's Hadoop version is selected by Amazon to provide an upgraded version of Amazon's Elastic MapReduce, or in short, EMR. Other than the three key players, there are other companies offer Hadoop distribution, like Pivotal Labs, IBM, etc. Quite honestly, almost all the companies who deal with data have some footprint in the world of Hadoop. With all these choices, which vendor would you choose for your implementation? The answer is not straightforward. It depends on your company's existing relationships with the companies that offer Hadoop distributions. I know a company who went with Pivotal's Hadoop distribution simply because they have an existing relationship with Pivotal, and they got a great deal. Another most important factor that influenced the decision would be the cost. Of course, right? Also, testing and benchmarking each distribution with your use cases is also important to weed out the distributions which are simply not performing to your expectations and standards. We chose to use Cloudera's distribution in our cluster and for teaching in this course simply because it is widely used at a lot of client locations we have been to. And Cloudera's website seems to have good documentation and help just about any topic. Okay. Let's say now we have picked up a distribution and we are ready to install. Where do we install? A company can choose to host the Hadoop cluster either in-house or choose a cloud service provider like Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud, etc. When it comes to cost, using a cloud service provider is beneficial because running a data center yourself would require a lot of human and financial resources. On the other hand, if you're Yahoo or Facebook, you will have the need for a pretty big cluster. In such a case, you would want to host your cluster in-house because the long-term financial benefits would surpass the short-term benefits provided by cloud platforms. Sometimes you would be constrained with legal and compliance restrictions, especially in banking and finance sectors where you cannot host your data outside your perimeter. In such cases, hosting the cluster in-house will be your only option. The cluster we are using in our course is hosted on Amazon Web Services, in short AWS. AWS powers and hosts some of the websites we use day to day like Netflix, Reddit, Yelp, etc. And also we have seen a lot of our clients use it as well. We chose to host the cluster on AWS for two simple reasons. AWS is widely used in the industry and AWS pricing is very competitive. That's it, no other fancy reasons. Okay. To summarize, in this lesson, we talked about Hadoop vendors and we looked at few key prominent Hadoop vendors in the market. We also briefly talked about hosting clusters and compared hosting in-house versus hosting on the cloud. With that, let's wrap this lesson. See you in the next lesson.